Close your eyes and picture this. It's 30,000 years ago. You're standing on a windswept plain as the sun disappears behind mountains of ice. The temperature is dropping fast. 20 below zero, then 30, then 40. You have no fire, no metal tools, no warm clothes, no house with walls, just your body, your mind, and the desperate need to see another sunrise. This isn't a survival show. This is real life for our ancestors. And somehow, against impossible odds, they didn't just survive, they thrived. They spread across continents covered in ice. They raised families. They created art. They laughed around fires they learned to make with nothing but stones and dead wood. Tonight, we're going back to the edge of human survival, to the coldest, darkest nights our species has ever faced, and you'll discover that the human body and mind are far more amazing than you ever imagined. So get comfortable, dim the lights, and let me tell you how your ancestors conquered winter itself. Before we dive deeper, please like the video and hit subscribe, but only if these whispered histories truly earn it. Every like and subscribe keeps our lantern glowing, and your support genuinely fuels me to bring more drowsy tales. It really helps us reach other people who are lying awake at 2 a.m., desperately wanting rest. I would also love to know, where are you listening from tonight, and what hour is the clock striking? Drop it in the comments. It's our way of reminding each other that none of us are lying awake alone. We're part of something gentle, steady, and shared. You wake up 30,000 years ago. The world looks nothing like today. Imagine stepping outside and seeing glaciers stretching to the horizon, ice sheets 2 miles thick, covering what would become New York City, mammoths walking where London sits today. The ocean is 400 feet lower because so much water is locked in ice. This is the last glacial maximum, the peak of the last ice age. You are Homo sapiens, but just barely. Your people left Africa only 60,000 years ago. You're still figuring out how to live in this frozen world. Every day is a test. Every night could be your last. The air bites your face like needles. Your breath creates instant clouds. The ground is hard as rock, frozen solid for 8 months of the year. Trees are scarce. Animals are huge, dangerous, and fast. But here's the amazing part. You're not just surviving. You're spreading from the caves of Spain to the steppes of Siberia. Humans are pushing north, into the cold that should kill you, into winter that lasts 9 months. How? The answer lies in your most powerful tool, not your hands, not your weapons, your brain. You've learned to read the sky. Those grey clouds mean snow is coming. You need shelter, fast. You've learned to read animal tracks. Mammoth prints lead to valleys protected from wind. Reindeer paths show you where to find unfrozen water. You've learned to read the land itself. South-facing slopes get more sun. Rocky overhangs block the wind. Caves stay warmer than open ground. But most important, you've learned to read each other. Because in this world, alone means death. Together means maybe, just maybe, you'll see spring. Tonight, as snow begins to fall, you hurry back to camp. Back to the people who make survival possible. Back to the fire that means life itself. The most important moment in human history wasn't the invention of the wheel. It wasn't agriculture. It wasn't even language. It was the moment someone figured out how to make fire whenever they wanted it. You crouch in the cave, watching your firekeeper work. She's one of the most important people in your group, more valuable than the best hunters. Because without fire, you're all dead by morning. She holds a piece of flint in her left hand, a steel-like rock called pyrite in her right. She strikes them together. Once, twice. A spark flies into a nest of dry grass and birch bark. She blows gently. The spark glows, grows, becomes flame. This simple act is pure magic. Before fire, humans lived like other animals. They ate raw meat. They slept in cold caves. They died when winter came. After the fire, everything changed. Fire cooks food, making it easier to digest. Your ancestors' brains grew larger, partly because cooked food gave them more nutrition. Fire extends the day. Now you can work, talk, and plan after sunset. Communities grow stronger. Knowledge spreads faster. Fire keeps predators away. Cave bears, saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, they all fear the dancing flames. But most importantly for tonight's story, fire creates warmth, a bubble of life in a world of death. You gather around the fire with your family, 20 people pressed close together. The flames throw shadows on cave walls, painted with pictures of animals, mammoths, horses, bison. The fire talks, it crackles and pops. It hisses when snowflakes find their way down from the cave entrance. It's alive, and keeping it alive keeps you alive. Your job tonight is to tend the fire, to feed it dry wood, to make sure it never goes out. Because outside the wind is howling, the temperature is dropping, and without this fire, morning might never come. You step outside the cave and immediately understand the problem. The wind cuts through your animal hide clothes like they're not even there. The ground is so cold it burns your feet through thick fur boots. A cave is good, but caves aren't everywhere. Sometimes you need to make your own shelter, and your ancestors became masters at it. In the grasslands of Eastern Europe, archaeologists found something amazing. Houses made entirely from mammoth bones. Not just a few bones, hundreds of them. Mammoth skulls for the foundation, leg bones for the walls, tusks bent into arches for the roof. Picture yourself building one of these bone houses. You and your people have killed a mammoth, a giant furry elephant the size of a school bus. After eating the meat and saving the hide, you face a choice. Leave the bones behind, or turn them into shelter. You choose shelter. The skull alone weighs 200 pounds. It takes 4 people to move it, but placed right side up, it makes a perfect foundation stone. You arrange 12 skulls in a circle 20 feet across. Next come the leg bones. Mammoth leg bones are 6 feet long and thick as tree trunks. You stick them into the ground between the skulls, creating walls. The bones interlock naturally, like nature designed them for building. For the roof you bend the tusks. Mammoth tusks can be 12 feet long and curved like giant question marks. You tie them together with sinew, creating a dome, but bones alone won't keep out the cold. You need insulation, so you pile earth against the outside walls. You stuff grass and moss between the bones. You hang a mammoth hide from the inside, creating an inner wall. When you're done, you have something incredible. A house that will stay standing for 15,000 years. A house that keeps the inside 30 degrees warmer than outside. A house built with nothing but what nature provided. You crawl through the small entrance. Inside, it's dark but warm. The wind that was cutting through you outside is now just a whisper. You build a small fire in the center. The smoke finds its way out through gaps in the roof. This isn't just shelter, it's home. It's proof that humans can adapt to anything, that we can take the bones of giants and turn them into safety. Outside winter rages. Inside children play. Adults tell stories. Life continues, because sometimes survival isn't about fighting nature. Sometimes it's about working with what nature gives you, even if what nature gives you is the skeleton of the largest land animal that ever lived. You're getting dressed, but it's not like getting dressed today. Every piece of clothing might save your life. Every layer has a purpose. First, against your skin, you wear the softest fur you can find, rabbit fur maybe, or the belly fur of a reindeer. This layer has to be comfortable because you'll wear it for months without taking it off. Next comes a tunic made from deer hide. The hide is scraped thin and treated with animal fat to make it soft. It fits loose so you can move your arms and bend without tearing the seams. Over that, a thick jacket made from mammoth hide or cave bear fur. This is your main protection against cold. The fur is so thick you can barely bend your elbows, but it traps warm air like a living blanket. Your legs get the same treatment. Fur pants tied tight at the waist and ankles. Nothing can get in, nothing can get out, including your precious body heat. On your feet, boots made from whole animal skins, not just the hide, the entire leg skin of a reindeer, turned inside out so the fur touches your feet. The hooves are cut off, and the opening is tied tight around your calf. Your hands get mittens, not gloves. Mittens keep your fingers together so they share heat. They're made from the thickest fur available. Sometimes wolverine fur, because wolverine fur doesn't freeze, even at 40 below. But the most important piece might be your hat. A fur hat that covers your ears, your neck, the back of your head. Made from wolf fur or Arctic fox. Dense enough to stop wind, warm enough to keep your brain from freezing. When you're fully dressed, you look like a walking fur ball. You can barely move, but you're ready for weather that would kill you in minutes if you were naked. This isn't fashion, this is engineering. Every stitch, every tie, every piece of fur carefully chosen and placed. Your ancestors understood something we've forgotten. In extreme cold, there's no such thing as too much insulation. You step outside, and the wind hits you like a wall. But inside your layers of fur, you're warm, comfortable, even ready to face whatever winter throws at you. Night is falling, and with it comes the real test. Can you stay warm enough to survive until dawn? Your shelter is built, your fire is burning. You're wearing every piece of clothing you own, but it's not enough. Outside, the temperature is dropping toward 40 below zero. That's cold enough to kill you in your sleep, even indoors. You need the secret weapon that keeps humans alive on the coldest nights. Other humans, you arrange sleeping spots around the fire, but not just anywhere. There's science to this. The best spots are closest to the fire, but protected from drafts. The worst spots are near the entrance where cold air sneaks in. Who gets the best spots? The youngest and oldest. Children lose heat faster than adults because they're smaller. Old people can't generate heat as well as young people. They need the most help. You spread out sleeping furs, not modern sleeping bags. The entire animal hides with the fur still on. Bear hides are best because they're huge and thick, but mammoth hide works too. Even deer hide, if that's all you have. The key is how you arrange yourselves. This isn't about privacy or personal space. This is about survival. You lie down next to each other, close enough to share body heat, close enough that one person's warmth becomes everyone's warmth. A family of 4 can keep each other warm in temperatures that would freeze a single person solid. The math is simple. 4 bodies generate 4 times the heat, pressed together under fur blankets. That heat has nowhere to go except into keeping you alive. But it's not just family. Sometimes strangers huddle together, sometimes enemies, because when it's cold enough, those differences don't matter. Cold is the enemy. Everyone else is on your side. You close your eyes, feeling the warmth of your children on one side, your partner on the other. The fire crackles nearby. Outside, wind screams across the frozen landscape. But inside, surrounded by people who care about you, you're safe. This is how humans survived. Not just through tools or fire or clever shelters, through taking care of each other. Through understanding that in the coldest times, we need each other most. You wake before dawn and step outside to check the sky. This isn't casual curiosity. Your life depends on what you see up there. Modern people check weather apps. Your ancestors had to read the sky like a book, and they got very, very good at it. Those thin, wispy clouds high up, ice crystals. They mean a storm is coming in the next day or two. Time to gather extra firewood. Time to check your shelter for weak spots. The way the wind smells tells you even more. Sharp and clean means snow. Heavy and damp means the temperature might rise. which could be dangerous if it makes ice slippery. No smell at all means the air is so cold that water vapor instantly freezes. You watch how animals behave. Birds flying low means air pressure is dropping. A storm is coming. Deer clustering in protected valleys means they sense weather changes you can't detect yet. Even your own body gives you clues. When it's about to get really cold, the air becomes so dry it hurts to breathe. Your skin starts to crack. The inside of your nose stings. But the most important skill is learning to think ahead. Not just one day, but many days. Because in the Ice Age, you can't just run to the store when the weather turns bad. You need to know, how much firewood do we have? Is it enough for a 3-day storm? Do we have enough food if we're trapped inside for a week? Are there any holes in our shelter that need fixing before the wind starts blowing? Your ancestors developed an early warning system. Scouts would climb high hills to watch for storms approaching. They'd return with reports. Big storm coming from the north. 3 days away. Very cold. That was enough time to prepare. To gather extra food, to bring in enough wood to last a week. To check that everyone had warm clothes ready. This weather sense wasn't magic. It was science. Pattern recognition, understanding how the natural world works, knowledge passed down from parents to children for thousands of years. You smell the air one more time, still clean and sharp. The storm is still coming, but you're ready for it, because your people have been getting ready for storms like this for 30,000 years. The cold isn't just trying to freeze your body. It's trying to break your mind. Imagine living through a winter that lasts 8 months. Imagine weeks where the sun barely rises above the horizon. Imagine being trapped in a small shelter with the same 20 people day after day, with nowhere to go and nothing new to see. Modern psychologists call this seasonal depression. Your ancestors just called it winter, and they had to find ways to fight it, or it would kill them just as surely as freezing. The first weapon against winter depression was stories. Every culture that survived Ice Age winters had a rich tradition of storytelling. Not just simple stories, epic tales that could last all night. Stories about heroes who faced impossible odds. Stories about animals that talked. Stories about the time before winter, when the world was warm. You sit around the fire, listening to the old woman tell the story of the first fire. How humans stole flame from the sun god. How that flame became all the fires that keep people warm. It's a story you've heard 100 times, but it never gets old, because it reminds you that humans have faced impossible things before, and won. Stories weren't entertainment, they were medicine. They kept minds active during long, dark months. They preserved knowledge about hunting, about weather, about which plants were safe to eat. They created bonds between people who might otherwise go crazy from being stuck together. But stories weren't enough. Your ancestors also discovered the power of routine. Every day starts the same way. Check the fire, check the weather, eat together, work together. Even when there's no urgent work to do, you find tasks, repair tools, make new clothes, practice hunting techniques. Routine creates mental stability. It gives you something to do besides worry about whether you'll survive until spring. It makes time pass faster when you most need it to pass. Music helps too. Drums made from mammoth hide, flutes carved from bird bones, simple songs that everyone can sing. When 20 people sing together around a fire, something magical happens. Individual fear becomes group strength. And then there's the most powerful weapon of all against winter depression: hope. Your ancestors learned to mark time, not with calendars but with natural signs. The gradual lengthening of days after the winter solstice, the return of certain birds, the first hints that ice is starting to thin. They celebrated these small victories, not with big parties, but with acknowledgement. The days are getting longer. We're going to make it. Spring is coming. Because that's the secret of surviving anything impossible. You don't have to survive forever. You just have to survive until things get better, and things always get better. Spring always comes, even after the longest, coldest, darkest winter. You're hungry, and dinner is mammoth. Again, Ice Age cooking wasn't about flavor, it was about staying alive, about getting as many calories as possible from whatever food you could find, about preserving meat in a world without refrigerators. Actually, the whole world was a refrigerator. In winter, you could store meat outside, and it would stay frozen for months. The problem was summer. How do you keep meat from spoiling when it's too warm to freeze, but you don't have salt or other preservatives? Your ancestors figured out several ways. Smoking was one. You'd hang strips of meat over a low fire for days. The smoke would dry out the meat and coat it with chemicals that prevented decay. Jerky, basically. It tasted terrible, but it lasted forever. Another method was fat packing. You'd cook meat until it was very dry, then pack it in rendered animal fat. The fat created an airtight seal. Meat stored this way could last for months without spoiling. But the most important cooking technique was maximizing nutrition from every part of every animal. When your people killed a mammoth, nothing went to waste. The meat was obvious. The fat was crucial. Meat or fat has twice as many calories as meat or plants. In extreme cold, calories equal survival time. The organs were prizes. The liver is packed with vitamins that prevent scurvy. The heart is pure protein. Even the brain was eaten, usually by pregnant women and children who needed the nutrients most. Bones were cracked open for marrow. Marrow is almost pure fat and one of the richest foods available. A single mammoth leg bone contained enough marrow to feed a person for days. Even things you wouldn't think of as food became food. Blood was mixed with fat and dried herbs to make a kind of ancient energy bar. Intestines were cleaned and used as storage containers for fat or dried meat. Cooking methods were simple but effective. Roasting over an open fire, boiling in leather bags with hot stones, steaming in pits lined with hot rocks and covered with hides. The goal wasn't to make food taste good. The goal was to extract every possible calorie and nutrient from every animal you killed, because the next meal might be days away. And calories you didn't eat today might mean the difference between life and death tomorrow. You finish your mammoth dinner and lick your fingers clean. Every drop of fat matters. Every calorie counts. This isn't just dinner. It's fuel for surviving another day in the coldest world humans have ever known. But food alone isn't enough to survive. When someone gets hurt, and in this dangerous world, someone always gets hurt, you need more than mammoth meat to heal them. The young hunter limps back to camp, blood seeping through his fur leggings. A cave bear's claw caught him during the hunt. In the modern world, this would mean a trip to the emergency room. In the Ice Age, it means life or death depends on what your people know about healing. You're not a doctor. There are no doctors, but your grandmother was a healer, and she taught you things that might save this young man's life. First, stop the bleeding. You press clean fur against the wound. Not just any fur, rabbit fur that's been kept dry and clean specifically for injuries. Your people learned long ago that dirty cloth makes wounds worse. The bleeding slows but doesn't stop. You need something stronger. From your medicine pouch, you pull out dried moss. Not just any moss. Sabignum moss from the bog near camp. This moss has special properties. It soaks up blood and helps wounds close. You pack the moss into the deepest part of the cut. The hunter grits his teeth but doesn't cry out. He's been taught since childhood that healing hurts, but it's better than dying. Next comes the real medicine. From another pouch, you take dried willow bark. Willow bark contains something that won't be called aspirin for another 30,000 years, but it does the same thing. It reduces pain and fights infection. You chew the bark into a paste and spit it onto the wound. It tastes bitter and makes your mouth numb. But you've seen this treatment work before. Your grandmother used it to save your uncle when a mammoth tusk pierced his leg. The wound needs to be closed. No needles, no thread. Instead you use nature's tools. Large thorns from hawthorn bushes, threaded with sinew from a deer's back leg. The sinew is strong and flexible. The thorns are sharp enough to pierce skin. You stitch the wound closed with careful small stitches, each one precisely placed. Too tight and the skin will tear. Too loose and the wound won't heal properly. The hunter's fever starts that night. This is the real test. Infection kills more Ice Age people than predators or cold. You brew tea from elderberry bark and echinacea root. Both plants help the body fight sickness. For 3 days you tend the wound, changing the moss dressing, applying fresh willow bark paste, forcing the hunter to drink bitter plant teas that boost his strength. On the 4th day his fever breaks. The wound is pink and healthy, already starting to close. In 2 weeks he'll be hunting again. This is Ice Age medicine. No hospitals, no pharmacies, no antibiotics, just knowledge passed down through generations. Knowledge about which plants heal and which plants kill. Knowledge about how bodies work and what they need to survive. Your people are living pharmacies. They know dozens of plants that fight infection, hundreds more that ease pain, reduce fever, or help with breathing problems. This knowledge is as important as knowing how to make fire or hunt mammoths. But healing isn't just about plants. It's about understanding the human body. Your people know how to set broken bones using splints made from straight branches. They know how to relocate dislocated shoulders. They know how to treat frostbite without losing fingers or toes. The young hunter will carry a scar for the rest of his life, but he'll carry his life too, because your people understand that survival isn't just about avoiding injury, it's about healing from the injuries that can't be avoided. The hunter's wound is healing well, but his spear was broken in the cave bear attack. Without a weapon, he can't hunt. Without hunting, he can't eat. In the Ice Age, a broken tool can mean death. You sit by the fire with a piece of flint the size of your fist. This isn't just any rock. This is the right kind of stone for making tools. Flint fractures in predictable ways, creating edges sharper than modern steel. Tool making is both art and science. Hit the stone wrong, and it shatters into useless pieces. Hit it right, and it becomes a blade that can cut through mammoth hide. You examine the flint carefully, looking for the right place to strike. The stone has natural weak points where it wants to break. Your job is to find those points and use them, with a hammerstone minus a harder rock used for striking. You tap the flint, not hard, but precisely. A small chip flies off, leaving a sharp edge behind. Another tap. Another chip. Slowly the shapeless rock becomes a tool. Each strike removes exactly the right amount of stone. Too much and you ruin the blade. Too little and the edge won't be sharp enough. This skill takes years to master, decades to perfect. Your hands are scarred from years of tool making. Flint is unforgiving. One mistake and sharp stone slices skin to the bone. But the scars are worth it. Without sharp tools, your people would be defenseless against the world. The spear point takes shape under your careful work, long and narrow, with a sharp tip for piercing and cutting edges for slicing. The base is shaped to fit into a wooden shaft, held in place with sinew and tree sap. But the stone point is only part of the weapon. The shaft matters just as much. You select a straight piece of ash wood. Ash is flexible but strong. It won't break on impact with a mammoth's ribs. The wood is shaped with another stone tool, a scraper made from a different type of flint. You smooth the shaft until it's perfectly round and balanced. The weight has to be right, too heavy and the spear is clumsy, too light and it won't penetrate deep enough to kill. Attaching the point requires precision. You cut a slot in the wooden shaft just the right size for the stone point. Too loose and the point will fall out at the worst possible moment. Too tight and the wood will split. Tree sap heated over the fire becomes glue. You coat the base of the stone point and press it into the wooden shaft. Sinew wrapped tightly around the joint holds everything together. When the sap cools and hardens, the spear becomes one solid weapon. The finished spear is tested carefully. You throw it at a target made from bundled grass. The balance is perfect. The point penetrates deeply. The shaft remains straight and true. This weapon represents hours of careful work. But more than that, it represents thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Knowledge about stones and wood and sap and sinew. Knowledge about balance and weight and penetration. The young hunter hefts his new spear and smiles. Tomorrow he'll hunt again. The cave bear that wounded him won't get a second chance. Tool making is survival made visible. Every scraper, every spear point, every knife represents the difference between life and death. Your ancestors weren't just surviving. They were innovating, creating solutions to problems that would kill other creatures. 3 days later, an old woman falls while gathering firewood. Her ankle twists with a sound like breaking branches. She tries to stand but collapses with a cry of pain. This is a different kind of medical emergency. Not a wound that bleeds, but bones that have moved where they shouldn't be. Healing this requires knowledge that goes deeper than plant medicine. You kneel beside the injured woman and carefully feel her ankle. Your fingers, trained by years of experience, can read the story written in swollen flesh and displaced bone. The ankle is dislocated, not broken. That's good news. Broken bones in the Ice Age often mean permanent disability or death. Dislocated joints can be fixed if you know how, but relocating a joint is dangerous work. Done wrong, you can turn a treatable injury into a crippling one. Done right, the woman will walk again within weeks. You've watched healers work since you were a child. You've seen joints relocated, bones set, infections fought. Now that knowledge must guide your hands. First, you need help. Joint relocation requires strength and precise timing. You call 2 strong men to assist. They'll provide the muscle while you provide the skill. The woman is given willow bark tea to dull the pain and a stick to bite down on. What you're about to do will hurt terribly, but briefly, the alternative is a lifetime of limping. You position the woman's leg carefully. The ankle must be pulled straight while being twisted back into proper alignment. The men grip her leg firmly. You place your hands on her foot. Ready, you ask. She nods, gripping the stick between her teeth. You pull and twist in one smooth motion. The dislocated bone slides back into place with a soft pop. The woman screams through the stick but doesn't pass out. Immediately, the unnatural angle of her ankle corrects itself. The swelling will continue for days, but the bone is where it belongs. She'll walk again. But the healing work isn't finished. A relocated joint is weak and easily re-injured. You need to immobilize the ankle while it heals. Using straight sticks and leather strips, you build a splint. The sticks keep the ankle from bending. The leather holds everything in place. It's primitive by modern standards, but effective. The woman will need to stay off the ankle for weeks. In a hunting society where everyone has essential work, this creates problems. But your people understand that healing requires patience. Others will carry extra loads of firewood, hunt longer to make up for her absence, bring her food and water while she recovers. The community adapts to protect its injured members. This is the healer's art. Not just fixing immediate injuries, but understanding how healing affects the entire group. How to balance individual needs with community survival. You check the splint one more time, tight enough to provide support, but not so tight that it cuts off blood flow. The ankle will ache for weeks, but it will heal properly. The woman will have arthritis in that joint for the rest of her life. Ice Age medicine can't prevent that, but she'll walk without limping. She'll contribute to her community's survival. She'll live to see grandchildren. In 3 weeks you'll remove the splint. The ankle will be stiff but functional. The woman will gradually return to her normal activities. She'll remember your skill for the rest of her life. This is how medical knowledge spread in the Ice Age. Not through textbooks, but through successful treatments, through injuries healed and lives saved, through the reputation of healers who understand both plants and bones. Your hands have learned to read the human body like a map, to feel where bones belong and where they've wandered, to know which injuries will heal and which will cripple. This knowledge makes you valuable beyond measure, more valuable than the best hunter or the finest tool maker, because everyone gets hurt eventually, and when they do, their survival depends on what you know about healing. It's the middle of the night. The fire has burned down to glowing coals. Everyone else is asleep, and it's your turn to take the night watch. This might be the most dangerous job in the Ice Age world. You're sitting alone, responsible for keeping the fire alive and watching for threats. If you fall asleep, everyone might die. The threats are real. Cave bears are bigger than modern grizzlies. Saber-toothed cats with fangs like daggers. Giant hyenas that hunt in packs. Short-faced bears that stand 11 feet tall and run faster than horses. All of these predators are hungry, and humans sleeping around a fire make tempting targets. You listen to the night sounds, wind in the trees, the distant howl of wolves, something moving in the brush outside the firelight. Every sound could be dangerous, but the fire is your shield. Predators fear fire more than they want food. As long as the flames keep burning, you're probably safe. Probably. You add another piece of wood to the coals. The fire flares up, pushing the circle of light a little further into the darkness. Whatever was moving out there steps back. You can't see it, but you can feel it watching. This is psychological warfare. You against the night. You against the cold. You are against everything that wants to kill you and your family. The hardest part isn't the danger. It's loneliness. Everyone you love is asleep. You're the only thing standing between them and death. That's a heavy weight for one person to carry. But you're not really alone. Other humans at other fires are doing the same thing you're doing, taking the night watch, keeping the flames alive, protecting their people. This is one of the oldest human jobs. The night watchman, the guard, the protector. It's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. Every night somewhere in the world, humans are staying awake to keep other humans safe. You hear a sound that makes your blood freeze. A low growl, close enough that you can almost feel the breath of whatever made it. You grab a burning stick from the fire and hold it like a torch. The growling stops. Footsteps move away. You've won this round, but the night is long and there will be other rounds, other challenges, other moments when everything depends on your ability to stay awake, stay alert, stay alive. Dawn is still hours away. You settle back against the cave wall, feeding the fire, watching the darkness, protecting the most precious thing humans have ever discovered: each other. A baby is born on the coldest night of the year. In the modern world, that's an inconvenience. Hospitals have heating, doctors have tools, everything needed to keep a newborn safe and warm. In the Ice Age, a baby born in winter was in a crisis. Newborns can't regulate their body temperature. They lose heat faster than they can generate it. Without constant warmth, they die in hours. But your people have learned how to keep Ice Age babies alive. The birth happens in the warmest part of your shelter, right next to the fire. Extra furs are piled up to create a nest of warmth. Hot stones wrapped in leather are placed around the birth area to create a pocket of heated air. The moment the baby is born, they're wrapped in the softest fur available, usually rabbit fur or the belly fur from a reindeer. Then another layer of deer hid, then mammoth fur. The baby becomes a tiny bundle of warmth, but fur alone isn't enough. The baby needs body heat, direct contact with their mother's skin. The mother lies next to the fire with the baby pressed against her chest. Father and siblings form a wall of bodies around them, creating a human heating system. For the first few months, the baby is never alone, never more than a few inches from another human body. During the day, the baby is carried in a special pouch made from soft fur and worn against someone's chest. At night, the baby sleeps between parents, surrounded by family warmth. Feeding is another challenge. Nursing mothers need extra calories to produce milk. In winter, when food is scarce, this means the mother gets the best pieces of meat, the richest fat, the most nutritious organs, because if the mother's milk fails, the baby dies. Ice Age children who survived their first winter became incredibly tough. They grew up in conditions that would challenge modern adults. They learned to tolerate colds that would send most people running for shelter. They developed resistance to diseases that killed weaker children. By age 5, Ice Age children could help tend the fire. By 10, they could track animals and identify edible plants. By 15, they were full participants in the struggle for survival. This isn't just history, it's your history. Every human alive today is descended from Ice Age children who survived winters that should have killed them, who grew up in caves and mammoth bone houses, who learned to read weather and tend fires and work together. You carry their genes, their toughness, their ability to survive anything. The baby born on this cold night will grow up to face challenges you can't imagine, but they'll face them with the strength of 30,000 years of survivors, and they'll win, just like their ancestors did. Snow isn't just snow when your life depends on understanding it. Your ancestors developed dozens of words for different types of snow, not because they were poetic, but because each type of snow meant something different for survival. Powder snow is light and fluffy, good insulation but hard to walk through. It won't support your weight, so you sink with every step. It's like walking through flour. Packed snow is dense and firm. You can walk on top of it, build with it, but it's also heavy. If it's on your shelter roof, it might collapse the structure. Crust snow has a hard layer on top with soft snow underneath. Dangerous for walking, because you break through unexpectedly, but useful for water, because you can chip off chunks of clean ice. Wind-packed snow is almost as hard as ice. It can support the weight of a mammoth, perfect for building walls or creating windbreaks. Old snow has been on the ground for weeks or months. It's dirty and may contain parasites or diseases, not good for drinking water unless you boil it first. Fresh snow is clean and safe. You can eat it if you need water and can't build a fire. But eating snow lowers your body temperature, so it's a trade-off. Wet snow means the temperature is near freezing. It might turn to rain, which is dangerous because rain soaks through fur clothes and then freezes against your skin. Each type of snow told your ancestors something about the weather, about what to expect in the next few hours or days, about whether they should travel or stay in a shelter. Snow also affected hunting. Powder snow muffles sound, making it easier to sneak up on animals. But it also makes walking difficult and leaves obvious tracks. Packed snow carries sound farther. Animals can hear you coming from much greater distances, but it's easier to move quickly when you need to chase prey or escape predators. Ice Age people became experts at reading snow the way modern people read street signs. Every type of snow was information, data about the world around them, knowledge that could save their lives. You scoop up a handful of snow and examine it. Small crystals, loosely packed, fresh powder, good for insulation but bad for walking. You make a mental note, stay close to shelter today. This snow will make travel dangerous. Fire isn't just heat and light, it's the center of human civilization. Watch your ancestors gather around the evening fire. This isn't just practical, it's a ritual, sacred. The most important time of every day, the firekeeper adds wood carefully, not too much at once, which would create smoke and waste fuel, not too little, which would let the fire die down, just enough to keep the flames steady and bright. Everyone has a place around the fire. The elderly sit closest because they need the most warmth. Children sit between adults where they're protected from the cold. The firekeeper sits where they can reach the wood pile easily. But this gathering isn't just about staying warm. It's about being human. This is where stories are told, where knowledge is passed down, where the day's events are discussed, and tomorrow's plans are made. The fire is the living heart of the community. A successful hunt is described in detail around the fire. Not just bragging, but teaching. Which direction did the wind blow? How did the animal react? What mistakes were made? What could be done better next time? Weather observations are shared. The clouds looked different today. I think a big storm is coming. The birds were flying lower. That usually means snow. Tools are repaired by firelight. Spear points sharpened. Clothes mended. Useful work done while the community talks and plans together. The fire also serves as a pharmacy. Certain herbs thrown on the flames create smoke that helps with coughs and congestion. Other plants produce calming effects when burned. The fire becomes a delivery system for Ice Age medicine. But perhaps most importantly, the fire is where human bonds are strengthened, where arguments are settled, where decisions are made collectively, where the group becomes more than just individuals trying to survive. Children learn by watching adults around the fire. They see how disputes are handled, how resources are shared, how the community makes decisions. The fire is their classroom, and the lessons they learn will determine whether the group survives or falls apart. As the night grows colder, the fire becomes more precious. It's the difference between life and death, but it's also the difference between being an animal and being human. You add your own piece of wood to the flames. You're not just feeding a fire. You're participating in a ritual that's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. You're being human in the most basic and essential way. The fire burns brighter, the cold steps back, and for another night, humanity continues its long journey through the ice. Winter solstice has passed. The days are getting longer, but you still have months of cold ahead. This is the hardest time. When food supplies are running low, when everyone is tired of being trapped together, when the endless cold starts to feel like it will never end. But your ancestors had a secret weapon against winter despair: memory. Around the fire, people talk about spring, not the coming spring which still feels impossibly far away, but past springs. Springs they've lived through before. They remember the smell of earth warming in the sun, the sound of ice breaking up on rivers, the first green shoots pushing through old snow, the return of birds that have been gone all winter. These aren't just pleasant memories. They're proof that winter always ends, proof that warmth and life always return, proof that no matter how bad things get, they will get better. The old woman describes the spring when she was young, when the ice melted so fast the valley flooded, how they had to move to higher ground, how they found the first mammoth of the season stuck in mud, easy to hunt. A man talks about the spring when his first child was born, how the baby came into the world just as the first flowers bloomed, how they knew it was a good sign, a promise of life returning to the world. Children listen to these stories with wonder. They've never seen spring having been born in winter. To them, green grass and warm air are as mythical as dragons. But the adult certainty makes it real. Spring will come, everyone agrees. It always comes. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's based on careful observation. The old people have lived through dozens of winters. They know the signs. They know that no winter, no matter how harsh, lasts forever. They track the lengthening days, not with clocks but with shadows, with the position of the sun, with star patterns that change throughout the year. Look, the firekeeper says, pointing to a particular star. When that star is directly overhead at sunset, spring is 1 month away. They watch for animal signs, the behavior of creatures that migrate, the first appearance of insects that hibernate, the subtle changes in how the wind smells, Every small sign is celebrated. The snow feels different today, softer. I heard a bird I haven't heard all winter. The ice on the water is starting to change color. These observations create hope. Not false hope, but real hope based on knowledge. Based on understanding how the world works. Based on the accumulated wisdom of people who have survived many winters. You close your eyes and try to imagine warmth. Try to remember what it felt like to be comfortable without layers of fur. To sleep without worrying about the fire going out. To step outside without your breath immediately freezing. Spring feels like a dream, but it's a dream that will come true, because it always has. Because the earth keeps turning. Because winter, no matter how long and cold and dark, is never permanent. The scouts return with news that changes everything. A mammoth has been spotted less than a day's walk from camp. This isn't just any animal. A full-grown mammoth can weigh 8 tons. It has enough meat to feed your entire group for months. Enough fat to keep lamps burning all winter. Enough hide to make new shelters. Enough bone to build houses. But killing a mammoth is incredibly dangerous. These aren't gentle giants. They're intelligent, powerful, and aggressive when threatened. One swipe from a mammoth's trunk can kill a human instantly. The hunt requires everyone. Even children have jobs. The plan is complex, worked out over generations of mammoth hunting. First, the terrain must be right. Your ancestors look for soft ground where the mammoth might get stuck, or a cliff where it might fall, or a narrow valley where it can't escape easily. They find the perfect spot. A boggy area near a frozen stream. If they can drive the mammoth into the soft ground, its massive weight will work against it. The hunters spread out in a wide arc. They carry spears tipped with razor-sharp stone points. Not to kill the mammoth directly, mightis. The hide is too thick, but to wound it, to make it bleed, to slow it down. Women and children take positions with torches and noisemakers. Their job is to control where the mammoth goes, to scare it away from escape routes, to drive it toward the trap. The lead hunter gives the signal, a low whistle that sounds like wind through rocks. Everyone moves. The mammoth sees them coming. It trumpets a warning, a sound like thunder that echoes across the frozen landscape. It's not afraid yet. A single mammoth can easily kill several humans. But humans don't fight like other predators. They don't attack directly. They use strategy. The hunters with spears move in from the sides, not close enough to be reached by trunk or tusks, just close enough to throw their weapons and run. The first spear hits the mammoth's rear leg. Not a killing blow, but painful. The mammoth turns toward the attacker, but the hunter is already gone, melted back into the landscape. Another spear from the other side. This one hits the shoulder. The mammoth spins, confused. Where are these attacks coming from? Meanwhile, the women and children light their torches. They begin making noise, shouting, banging rocks together, creating chaos and confusion. The mammoth tries to charge toward the noise, but more spears come from behind. It's like being attacked by ghosts. Everywhere it turns, humans appear, strike and disappear. Slowly the great beast is driven toward the boggy ground. It doesn't see the trap until it's too late. Its front feet sink into the soft earth. It tries to back out, but its rear feet also sink. The more it struggles, the deeper it gets. 8 tons of mammoth working against itself. Now the hunters move in closer, still carefully. A trapped mammoth is still dangerous, but they can approach near enough to place their spears precisely. The kill is quick and merciful. As quick as anything can be when you're using Stone Age tools on the largest land animal in the world. Then comes the real work, butchering 8 tons of mammoth with stone knives, carrying the meat back to camp piece by piece, processing the hide, the fat, the organs, making sure nothing is wasted. This mammoth will transform your group's winter, from barely surviving to thriving, From worrying about food to having abundance, from cold and uncomfortable to warm and well-fed. But more than that, the successful hunt proves something important. Humans might be small and weak compared to mammoths, but working together using intelligence instead of strength, they can achieve impossible things. The mammoth dies so that humans can live. It's an ancient bargain, the foundation of human survival in the Ice Age world. Late at night, when everyone else is asleep, you hear something that makes your heart race. Voices. Human voices. But not from your group. Everyone in your shelter is accounted for, sleeping peacefully around the dying fire. These voices come from outside, from the darkness beyond the firelight, speaking in a language you almost understand, but not quite. You grab a burning stick and move toward the entrance of your shelter. The voices stop. Silence fills the night like thick fog. This is one of the great mysteries of Ice Age life. In a world where humans are scattered in tiny groups across vast distances, how do you know if the voices in the dark belong to friends or enemies? Other human groups mean many things. They might mean trade, new tools, new ideas, new genes to strengthen your group. They might mean alliance against common threats like predators or harsh weather, but they might also mean competition. Competition for hunting grounds, for shelter sites, for the limited resources that keep people alive in a world where everything is scarce. Your ancestors developed careful protocols for contact with strangers. First, you make noise, lots of noise. You want them to know you're aware of their presence. You want them to know you're awake and ready, then you wait. If they're friendly, they'll announce themselves. They'll call out in words you can understand. They'll ask permission to approach. If they're hostile, they'll either attack immediately or disappear into the night. Either way, you'll know where you stand. The voices start again. Closer this time, you can make out individual words. They're speaking a dialect of your language. Different accent, some unfamiliar words but definitely human speech. Hello the fire, comes a call from the darkness. The traditional greeting, a way of announcing peaceful intentions. Hello the darkness, you respond. The traditional answer, you're acknowledging their presence without inviting them closer. We are the reindeer people. The voice calls, from the valley beyond the ice. We seek trade and shelter. The reindeer people, you've heard of them. They follow reindeer herds across the tundra. Expert hunters and tool makers, generally peaceful but formidable when threatened. You may approach the fire, you call back. Come slowly, show your hands. 3 figures emerge from the darkness. 2 men and a woman, carrying traveling packs but no visible weapons. They move carefully, hands open and visible. This is the Ice Age version of diplomacy. Formal, cautious but ultimately welcoming. Because in a world where survival is always uncertain, allies are precious. The strangers bring news from distant places. Stories of other groups they've met. Information about weather patterns, animal movements, new dangers or opportunities. They also bring trade goods. Tools made from materials not found in your area. Furs from animals that don't live nearby. Knowledge about techniques your group hasn't discovered yet. In return, you offer hospitality, food, shelter, warmth, information about local conditions, perhaps trade goods of your own. This exchange of knowledge and resources is how Ice Age humans survived, not as isolated groups struggling alone, but as part of a larger network, a community that stretched across continents. The voices in the dark aren't always friendly, but when they are, they represent something precious. Connection, proof that your group isn't alone in the world. I hope that humanity will continue. Your grandfather is dying, and with him, 50 years of survival knowledge. In a world without writing, human memory is the only library. Everything your people know about hunting, weather, tool making, healing, it all lives in the minds of the people who learned it. When someone dies, their knowledge dies with them, unless they pass it on first. Your grandfather calls you to his side. His voice is weak, but his mind is still sharp. He has things to tell you, important things, things that might save your life someday. Listen carefully, he whispers. I will tell you about the winter of the great storm. When I was young like you, the story he tells isn't just entertainment. It's a survival manual disguised as a tale. He describes how they knew the storm was coming. The color of the sky 3 days before, the way the wind smelled, how the animals behaved, signs you should watch for. He tells you how they prepared, what foods they gathered, how they reinforced their shelter, where they moved the fire to protect it from wind. Specific, practical knowledge. He describes how they survived when the storm lasted longer than expected, how they rationed food, how they stayed warm when fuel ran low, how they kept their spirits up during the darkest days. Every detail is important. Not just what happened, but why. Not just what they did, but how they decided to do it. The thought process behind each survival decision. Remember, he says, the sky will be yellow-green before a killing storm, not blue-green, not grey-green, yellow-green, like old ice. You repeat it back to him, yellow-green like old ice. He nods. Good. And remember, when the storm comes, the wind will try to steal your breath. Cover your mouth and nose. Breathe through fur or hide. More repetition. More memorization. Your grandfather is downloading 50 years of survival experience into your brain. This is how knowledge survived in the Ice Age. Not in books or computer files, but in human memory. Passed down through stories, through repetition, through the sacred duty of the old to teach the young. Your grandfather tells you about plants that can heal wounds, about which mushrooms are safe to eat and which will kill you, about how to read animal tracks in snow, about secret water sources that don't freeze even in the worst cold. He tells you about people, how to tell if strangers are friendly or dangerous, how to negotiate with other groups, how to lead when leadership is needed, how to follow when following is wise. But most importantly, he tells you about yourself, about the strength you carry in your blood, about the ancestors who survived things worse than anything you'll ever face. You are the child of survivors, he says. Ice Age winters, predator attacks, diseases, famines. Your ancestors lived through all of it. Their strength is your strength. His voice is getting weaker now. You lean closer to catch every word. One more thing, he whispers. The most important thing, humans survive together. Never alone. Always together. Remember that. You promise to remember all of it. The storm signs, the healing plants, the water sources, the strength of your ancestors, everything. Because now you're not just a survivor, you're a keeper of knowledge. Responsible for carrying forward everything your grandfather learned. Responsible for teaching it to the next generation. The library has passed to you, and with it, the responsibility to keep humanity's oldest wisdom alive. You wake to a sound you haven't heard in months. The sound of running water. For 8 months, everything has been frozen solid. Rivers locked under thick ice. Streams silent and still. Water existed only as snow and ice that had to be melted over fires. But now, somewhere nearby, water is moving. Ice is breaking. Winter is losing its grip. You step outside and listen carefully. They're mice, the trickle of melt water running off the roof of your shelter. The drip of icicles begins to soften in slightly warmer air. The temperature is still below freezing. There's still snow on the ground. Winter isn't over yet, but something has changed. Something fundamental. The angle of the sun is different, higher in the sky, stronger. The light that hits your face carries a warmth that wasn't there yesterday. You check your shadow. It's shorter than it was a week ago. The days are noticeably longer. Time itself is shifting, moving away from the darkest part of the year towards something brighter. This is the moment your ancestors waited for through the longest nights. Not the end of winter. That's still weeks away, but the beginning of the end. The first proof that the world hasn't forgotten how to be warm. You call the others outside. Everyone needs to see this, to hear it, to know that the impossible coldness that seemed like it would last forever is starting to crack. Children who have never experienced spring press their ears to the ground, listening to the sound of water moving beneath the ice. To them, it's magic. Ice turns to water, solid becoming liquid. The adults are more practical, but equally amazed. Running water means many things. It means travel will soon be possible again. It means animals will start moving, following the melting ice towards summer feeding grounds. It means the hunting season is about to change completely, but it also means danger. Ice that's starting to melt is unpredictable. Solid-looking surfaces can give way without warning. Rivers that have been safe to cross all winter become death traps as ice weakens. Your people have protocols for this transition time. No one crosses rivers alone. Everyone carries a long stick to test ice thickness. No one goes anywhere without telling others where they're going and when they expect to return. The sound of breaking ice can be heard for miles. Great cracks that sound like thunder as ice sheets split and shift. The river is waking up after its winter sleep, and it's not doing it quietly. You follow the sound to its source, a small stream that feeds into the main river. Yesterday it was frozen solid. Today, water bubbles up through cracks in the ice, creating tiny rapids where there was only silence before. You kneel and dip your finger in the flowing water. It's so cold it hurts, but it's liquid. Real, moving water. For 8 months you've melted snow and ice over fires to get drinking water. Slow work. Fuel-expensive work. Now, water is beginning to flow freely again. You fill a container with the fresh running water and take it back to share with your group. Everyone takes a sip. It tastes different from melted snow. Cleaner, more alive. This is the taste of spring coming. The taste of a world waking up from its frozen sleep. Winter has taught you many things. It's made you stronger, more resourceful, more connected to your family and community. It's shown you what humans can endure when they work together. But now winter is starting to release its grip, and with that release comes hope. Hope for warmth. I hope for an easier life. Hope for the return of all the things that make life more than just survival. The ice breaks with a sound like distant thunder, and with it your spirits begin to thaw as well. 3 weeks after the first ice broke, you see something that stops you in your tracks. A tiny green shoot pushing up through old snow. It's no bigger than your fingernail, barely visible unless you're looking carefully. But it's green. Living green in a world that's been brown and white and grey for 8 months. You call the others over. Everyone needs to see this miracle. The first plant of spring, proof that the earth remembers how to create life. Children who were born in winter have never seen green things growing. To them, plants are dead brown sticks. Food is meat and stored fat. The idea that food can grow from the ground is as amazing as magic. You dig carefully around the tiny shoot. Its roots go deep, all the way below the frost line. This plant has been waiting all winter for this moment. Storing energy, preparing for the return of warmth and light. Over the next few days, more green appears. First one plant, then 5, then dozens. The snow line retreats, revealing earth that's been hidden since autumn, and with the plants come the insects. First a few hardy beetles emerging from winter hiding places, then flies, then bees and butterflies are drawn by the first flowers. The insects bring birds, species you haven't seen since before the snow. Robins and sparrows, hawks and eagles. They fill the air with sounds you forgot existed, chirping and singing and calling. The returning birds mean hunting is about to change completely. Many of them are exhausted from long migrations. Easy targets for humans who've been living on stored meat all winter. But they also mean something more important. They mean the world is connected again. These birds have been to warm places. They've seen green forests and flowing rivers. They're proof that such places still exist. Your ancestors track the bird migrations carefully. Different species return at different times, each one marking a stage in spring's progress. Crows come first, tough enough to survive in still cold conditions. Songbirds come later when insects are more abundant. The latest arrivals are the swallows. They won't return until warm weather is reliable, until flying insects are plentiful enough to support them. When you see the first swallow, you know winter is truly over. But the most important returnees aren't birds. They're mammals, the large herbivores that migrate with the seasons. Reindeer, wild horses, giant bison. These animals are your people's main food source. They've been gone all winter following the retreating ice to places where grass grows year-round. Now they're coming back, following the melting snowline north. You climb a hill to scan the horizon for movement. They're mere a dark line in the distance, moving slowly across the landscape. It's a herd of something, too far away to identify, but definitely large animals on the move. This is what your people have been waiting for. The return of the herds. The end of dependence on stored food. The beginning of fresh meat and new opportunities. But the returning animals also bring predators. Wolves following the herds. Bears emerging from winter dens. Saber-toothed cats hunting the newly abundant prey. Spring isn't safer than winter. It's just dangerous in different ways. Winter's danger was cold and starvation. Spring's danger is competition with other predators for the returning game. Your people prepare for a different kind of survival challenge. Not enduring cold, but out hunting wolves and bears. Not staying warm, but staying fed in a suddenly crowded landscape. The tiny green shoot that started it all is now a full plant. Small flowers have appeared at its tip. In a few weeks it will produce seeds. The cycle of life is beginning again. You touch the flower gently. 6 months ago, you weren't sure you'd live to see spring. None of you were. Winter seemed endless, impossible to survive. But here you are. Here it is. Spring returning as it always has, as it always will. The green shoot is proof of something your ancestors always believed, but sometimes forgot during the darkest days. Life finds a way. Life always finds a way. Even through ice ages. Even through winters that seem to last forever. Even when survival seems impossible. Life endures. Life returns. Life celebrates itself with tiny green shoots pushing through snow, and so do humans. But spring brings more than just plants and warmth. It brings something your people have been missing all winter long. Community. Smoke rises in the distance, not the thin smoke of a single fire, but thick columns from many fires. Someone else has survived the winter. Multiple people. Your scouts return with exciting news. 3 other groups have made it through the cold months. All of them are camped in the valley where the rivers meet. All of them are preparing for the great gathering. This is what your people have dreamed about during the darkest winter nights. The annual meeting when scattered clans come together to trade, to share news, to find partners for their children, to exchange the knowledge that keeps everyone alive. You pack carefully for the journey, not just survival supplies, but trade goods, the best furs your hunters killed this winter, tools made with special skill, medicines that only your healer knows how to prepare. The valley is already bustling when you arrive. Over 100 people spread across the meadow. Children who have never seen so many humans in one place stare in wonder. Adults greet old friends with tears of joy. This gathering serves many purposes, but the most important might be the youngest participants. Teenagers who have been isolated with their families all winter now meet potential marriage partners from other clans. Fresh bloodlines are essential for small groups. marry too many relatives and children are born weak or sick. The gathering allows young people to find mates from distant clans, strengthening the genetic pool of both groups. But romance isn't the only thing being exchanged. Knowledge flows like water between the camps. The mammoths have changed their migration route. Reports a hunter from the eastern clan. They're moving through the narrow pass 2 valleys over now. We found a new type of stone for tools, shares a woman from the northern group. Harder than flint and easier to shape. I'll show you where. There's a disease affecting the reindeer, warns an elder from the southern clan. Spots on their hides. Don't eat any reindeer with spots. Each piece of information could save lives. The gathering creates a network of survival knowledge spanning hundreds of miles. Children listen to stories from other clans, tales of successful hunts, dangerous predators, harsh winters survived through clever solutions. These stories aren't just entertainment, they're educated, lessons that might save their lives someday. Adults demonstrate new techniques, better ways to work flint, more effective hunting strategies, improved methods for preserving meat. Innovation spreads through hands-on teaching. The gathering also serves as a massive trade fair. Your clan's high-quality furs are exchanged for obsidian blades from people who live near volcanic areas. Medicine plants that don't grow in your territory are traded for tools made from local stone. Everyone benefits. Resources that are common in one area become treasures for people who can't find them elsewhere. The trading creates abundance from scarcity. Disputes between clans are settled here too. If one group has been hunting in another's territory, or if there's conflict over water rights, the gathering provides neutral ground for negotiation. Respected elders from all clans listen to both sides and suggest solutions. Their decisions carry weight because everyone knows these people have survived the longest. Their wisdom has been tested by decades of Ice Age winters. But perhaps the most valuable thing exchanged at the gathering is hope. Seeing other families who survived the winter, watching children play together, sharing food around common fires. It all reinforces the sense that humanity will continue. You're not alone in the world. Your small clan isn't the only humans left alive. There are others out there facing the same challenges, finding the same solutions, carrying on the same ancient struggle for survival. As the gathering winds down after several days, people begin planning next year's meeting. Where will it be held? When will it start? Who will bring what supplies? These plans create something to look forward to during the coming winter. A reason to survive beyond mere survival. A reminder that spring will come again, and with it reunion. You pack your new trade goods and say goodbye to friends you won't see for another year. Children promise to remember each other. Young couples make plans to meet again when both clans return. The journey back to your territory feels different. You're returning with more than just trade goods. You're carrying news, knowledge, connections, hope. The gathering has reminded you that humans are stronger together than apart. Even when winter forces you into isolation, you're part of something larger. A network of survivors spread across the frozen world, all working toward the same goal, making it through another year and meeting again when spring returns. You close your eyes and try to remember, what did warmth feel like? Before the endless layers of fur, before checking the fire every hour, before waking in the night to add wood to dying coals, you remember skin that didn't hurt from the cold, air that didn't freeze your breath, ground that wasn't hard as stone beneath your feet. You remember swimming, the feeling of water against bare skin, the luxury of being wet without the terror of freezing to death. Sunlight, warm sunlight on your face, lying on grass in lazy afternoon heat, sweating, actually sweating. What a strange and wonderful thing that was. The sound of rain on leaves instead of wind through bones, thunder that meant life instead of death, storms you could watch from shelter instead of fight for survival. You remember abundance, food that grew from the earth, berries you could pick and eat immediately, nuts that fell from trees, water that flowed freely from springs and streams. But most of all you remember ease. the ability to relax, to sleep without worry, to wake without immediately checking for threats. All of this is returning. The ice is melting. The herds are moving north. The first flowers are blooming. Soon, very soon, you'll remember what it feels like to be warm. Tonight, for the first time in 8 months, you're building a fire outside. Not because you have to, not because everyone will die without it, but because you want to, because the evening air is soft enough to sit outside, because the danger of freezing to death has finally passed. This fire is different from winter fires. Those were about survival. This one is about celebration. You build it bigger than necessary. You feed it good wood that flames high and bright instead of just smouldering for heat. You let it crackle and dance and throw sparks into the evening sky. Your family gathers around this first spring fire, but instead of huddling for warmth, you sit back from the flames, far enough away that you're comfortable, close enough to see each other's faces in the dancing light. The stories told around this fire are different too. Instead of grim tales of survival and endurance, tonight you tell stories of hope, of plans for the coming warm season, of dreams that seemed impossible during the darkest winter days. This summer, says one of the hunters, I want to travel to the big valley beyond the mountains. They say the hunting there is incredible. This summer, says a woman, I want to gather enough plants to last 2 winters, so we never run as low on food as we did this year. This summer, says a child, I want to learn to swim. Swimming, the idea seems as fantastic as flying. Water is warm enough to enter by choice instead of necessity. Amazing. You contribute your own dream. This summer, I want to find the caves with the painted animals, the ones the old stories talk about. I want to see pictures made by people like us. These aren't just wishes, they're plans, real goals for the months of warmth ahead. The fire gives you a place to speak them out loud, to make them real by sharing them. But even as you celebrate spring's arrival, you're learning from winter's lessons. Tonight's fire burns bright and high, but tomorrow you'll start gathering wood for next winter. You'll never again be caught unprepared for cold. You've learned to think ahead, to plan for seasons that seem impossibly far away, to prepare for hardships that aren't currently threatening you. Winter taught you that survival isn't about dealing with problems after they arrive. It's about preparing for problems before you can even see them coming. The fire burns down to glowing coals, unlike winter fires that had to burn all night. This one can be allowed to die. The air is warm enough that you'll be comfortable sleeping without flames, but no one wants to leave yet. This fire represents something precious, freedom from the constant worry that defined winter, permission to relax, to celebrate, to be human in ways that go beyond mere survival. You add one more piece of wood, not because you need to, but because you can, because fuel is no longer precious enough to hoard, because spring fires can burn for joy instead of just necessity. The flames leap higher, throwing light and warmth into the mild evening air, and for the first time in 8 months, you feel something you almost forgot existed: peace. Summer has returned to the world. Green grass waves in warm breezes. Rivers run full and free. Animals graze peacefully in valleys that were frozen death traps just months ago. You sit by a stream, watching your children play in the warm water. They're learning to swim, fulfilling the dream someone spoke around the first spring fire. But you can't quite relax. Even in this paradise of warmth and abundance, part of your mind is already thinking about next winter. This is what survival has taught you. Those good times are temporary, that the world can change from life-giving to life-threatening in a matter of weeks. That preparation is the difference between living and dying. You're not anxious about it. You're not afraid. You've learned that you can handle whatever comes. But you're also not naive enough to think that because life is easy now, it will always be easy. This is the wisdom of survivors, the knowledge that nothing lasts forever. The seasons change. That preparation is a form of love, mindless love for your family, your community, your future self. So even as you enjoy the warm sun and abundant food, you're gathering, collecting plants that can be dried and stored, identifying trees that will provide good firewood, noting changes in animal behavior that might predict early cold. Your children don't understand yet. Any form of it is dangerous in yet. To them, summer seems eternal. They can't imagine a world where water turns to ice, where breathing hurts, where going outside means risking death. But they'll learn, not through lectures but through stories, through participation in the endless cycle of preparation that keeps humans alive. You start teaching them now while the lessons are easy and fun. How to identify edible plants, how to track animals, how to read weather signs in cloud formations. They think it's a game, and it is, sort of. But it's also the most serious education they'll ever receive. See that cloud formation? You tell your daughter as she gathers berries. What does it look like to you? Like a fish, she says. Good. Clouds that look like fish swimming upstream usually mean rain is coming. Rain in late summer can be dangerous because it might turn to snow. She nods seriously, storing the information. Fish clouds mean possible danger. Got it. These lessons accumulate, day by day, season by season. By the time she's an adult, she'll have thousands of small pieces of survival knowledge. Knowledge that might save her life someday. But the most important lesson isn't about weather or plants or animals. It's about people. Remember, you tell all your children, humans survive together. Everything else, the tools, the shelters, the knowledge, it's all just details. The real secret is taking care of each other. They've seen this principle in action. They've lived through winter in a community where everyone's survival depended on everyone else's cooperation. They know it's true, but knowing it intellectually and living it emotionally are different things. Summer makes cooperation easy. Winter makes it essential. As the warm season progresses, you begin the subtle work of preparation. Not with urgency or fear, but with steady, patient care. You teach your children to make fire, not just how to feed an existing fire, but how to create flame from nothing but stone and tinder. This knowledge could save their lives. You teach them to read ice, how to tell safe ice from dangerous ice, how to test thickness, how to rescue someone who falls through. Skills they might never need, but skills that define the difference between survivors and victims. You teach them about food storage, which plants dry well, how to preserve meat, how to create caches that will survive winter weather and remain hidden from animals. But most importantly, you teach them about community, how to share resources, how to resolve conflicts, how to make decisions that benefit the group even when they're not best for individuals. These lessons happen naturally, embedded in daily life. Children learn by watching adults model the behaviors that keep communities alive. They see you sharing your best hunting spots with neighbors. They see you offering help without being asked. They see you putting group needs ahead of personal wants. This is how survival knowledge really passes down. Not through formal instruction but through example. Through living in a community where cooperation isn't just nice, it's necessary. By the time autumn arrives, your children have learned hundreds of small lessons. They know which berries are safe to eat. They can identify animal tracks. They can predict weather changes by watching bird behavior. But more importantly, they've internalized the mindset of survivors. The understanding that preparation is love. That community is strong. That humans can endure anything if they work together. As the first cold nights return, you're ready. Not just with supplies and knowledge, but with the deep confidence that comes from having survived before. Your children gather around the evening fire and you begin telling them the story of last winter. How cold it was, how hard it was, how your people worked together to survive. They listen with wide eyes, trying to imagine a deadly cold, trying to understand how their warm, comfortable world could transform into something so dangerous. But they're not afraid, because the story doesn't end with danger and death. It ends with spring returning, with life continuing, with humans proving once again that they can survive anything. Will winter come again? Your youngest asks. Yes, you tell her, winter always comes again. But will we be ready? You look around at your family, at your community, at the stores of food and fuel accumulated through months of careful preparation. The knowledge passed down through countless generations of survivors. Yes, you say, we'll be ready. Because that's what survivors do. They prepare, they cooperate, they endure. And when spring comes again, and it always does, they're still here to see it. The fire burns low now. Your story draws to a close, just as those ancient fires once burned down to glowing coals. You've walked with your ancestors through the coldest nights humanity has ever known. You've felt the bite of an ice age wind. You've shared body heat in mammoth bone shelters. You've learned the secrets that kept humans alive when the world was a frozen wasteland. But more than that, you've discovered something important about yourself. You carry their DNA, their resilience, their incredible ability to adapt and survive and thrive no matter what challenges arise. Every time you work together to solve a problem, you're using skills they developed around fires like this one. Every time you prepare for future challenges, you're following their example. Every time you take care of someone who needs help, you're honoring their memory. The cold they faced was extreme, but the cold you face in your own life, the challenges, the setbacks, the times when everything seems impossible, you have the same tools they had. You have your mind, your ability to learn and adapt and plan ahead. You have your community, the people who care about you and depend on you and work with you to build something better, and you have their heritage. 30,000 years of humans who faced the impossible and found a way through it. Winter always comes, in nature and in life, times of hardship and challenge and testing. But spring always comes too. Warmth returns, life begins again. Hope proves itself stronger than despair. Your ancestors knew this, they lived by this knowledge. They passed it down to you through their courage, their wisdom, their refusal to give up even in the darkest times. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, remember their strength lives in you. Their resilience flows in your blood. Their wisdom whispers in your dreams. Rest well, knowing you are the child of survivors. Sleep peacefully. History dreams alongside you.